So my name is Melody O'Neill. I'm the Associate Admission Director here at Landmark, and I handle the majority of the enrollment for our high school program. We have about 300 students at our high school campus. We take over 50 new students every year. So there's a lot of new kids coming in. It's a very easy place to transition to. We right now are about 60% day and 40% boarding, but we're working back towards our 50-50 split that we used to be before COVID of day and boarding. And so I just wanted to give you those quick fast facts about the campus before we jump in. Everybody should be seeing this. And if for some reason you can't see the presentation, if someone wants to unmute and tell me it's not working, otherwise I'm just going to assume we're good to go. All right. So the first bit of information is to talk about who our students are at Landmark. We have very bright, well-adjusted, and curious and eager to learn students here. Our students want to do well. They are highly motivated. They're very resilient. They may have had past difficulties, and I'm sure you guys as current Carroll parents know if your child had started off possibly at public school before getting to Carroll, some of the difficulties they may have encountered before getting into a really good language-based supportive school program that really teaches to their strengths, where students learn differently, but the teachers understand how they learn. So our kids are really motivated and resilient despite these past difficulties, and they really are very capable. They have so much potential. When they're put in the right environment, they really blossom. So those are our kids in terms of some characteristic traits that they possess. And then when we get into really who they are in terms of their learning profile with areas of difficulty, our kids fall under this language-based umbrella. And about 70% of the students at our high school campus are classically dyslexic in terms of, having that continued difficulty with the phonological piece for word attack, decoding, encoding, reading fluency. Sometimes students come to Landmark and they may not be classically dyslexic, or they may have been remediated to a point where they don't need to focus on their basic literacy skills anymore, but they may still really struggle with organization for written output. So they have that disorder of written language, the dysgraphia. Some of our students struggle with expressive language, that retrieval and output and oral formulation of what they're trying to say. Of course, the executive function piece, I would say pretty much all of our students struggle with aspects and areas of executive function when we talk about organization and planning and task initiation and time management, study skills, all of that. About half or more of our students have a comorbid secondary diagnosis of ADHD, typically the inattentive type. That's a very common comorbid diagnosis with dyslexia or with language-based LD. And then the other important kind of part of our Landmark student and their profile is that typically their working memory and or processing speed is weaker than how strong their comprehension and reasoning ability is. So that's really where we see a discrepancy within the cognitive testing, and then how they, hold on to information and how quickly and motorically they can process information. That's oftentimes a relative weakness and a discrepancy for them. So that's really who we support well at Landmark. What isn't on this list is that we do also have students who sometimes can struggle with math. Typically, our students are pretty good with the big picture problem solving part of math, but oftentimes the details around the calculations or the math fact fluency and things like that can also be a difficulty for our kids. But this is really it. It's a very narrow piece of the pie. Our kids are bright and well adjusted, and these are the areas that they primarily struggle with. In terms of who we do not support well, because again, we do have a very specific niche. Students who have primary intellectual disabilities, we are not the best school to support students who struggle in areas of cognition. If a student has primary emotional or behavioral difficulties, we are not the best school to support that. We're not therapeutic, so we can't really provide kind of like daily emotional support for kids, or if they're having behavioral dysregulation in some way. We are not equipped to support students who have a diagnosis on the spectrum. If they do struggle with that ASD diagnosis, we're not going to be the best school. Our teachers are not trained or equipped to support students on the spectrum. Or if a student falls under the umbrella of what we call a nonverbal learning disability, these are kiddos who have more primary difficulties with that big picture thinking, that visual spatial integration, the problem solving, oftentimes demonstrating difficulties with social skills. Again, we're not the right school to support that. And then the final piece is just if a student is demonstrating more complex communication disorder difficulties beyond just the expressive piece, which again, we support that expressive piece very well. But if a student is struggling more with the receptive piece, which is that comprehension of language coming in, and or the social pragmatic language deficits, we're not going to be the best fit. Okay, so that's our profile. And as you apply to Landmark and you submit the online application, one of the required elements is testing. We do need testing to be within 3 years of application. And we specifically require the WISC, which is the Wessler Intelligence Scale for Children. What we need to see pretty consistently in order for us to know we can support a student well is that they're going to have strengths with their verbal comprehension, their fluid reasoning, again, that's that big picture thinking and problem solving, and their visual spatial integration. If you think of kind of the architect and really seeing how the pieces go together to make the whole, our students have real strengths in these areas, and we teach to these strengths. And as I mentioned earlier, the typical areas of difficulty come with the working memory and or processing speed for our kids. Okay, so you'll submit testing. We'll also ask for copies of an IEP or 504 if there is one. We'll get all the Carroll School reports, teacher references. If there's a counselor or private therapist, they'll fill out a summary of counseling. So our office will work with you to collect all of these documents. We have a new online application. It's ready to go. You can access that on our website. And it really is pretty user-friendly, and you just go through step by step. And attach documents, and then our office, again, will be in touch about any remaining records that we need, okay? And we do work on a rolling basis. We do not have an application deadline. All right, so let's now talk about what's unique about Landmark School in terms of our high school programs, our classes, our one-to-one tutorial, how things are set up here, and how the day-to-day looks. Our school day starts at 7:50 in the morning. We finish at 3:15 in the afternoon, and the students here have the same set schedule every day. It doesn't rotate. So if they have a math class, first period, they're going to have that Monday through Friday, first period, 50 minutes. Okay, so our approach here, probably similar to what you're used to at Carroll, is that we are language-based, which means we're really focused on skill remediation. And when we address content and skills, it's really this direct and explicit instruction. The goal is for it to be consistent across curriculum, which really allows for students to internalize the skills and strategies, and for it to become more automatic so that we can start to remove structure and the students can do more independently. The goal is for them to leave with all these effective tools in their toolbox to be very successful at the post-secondary level. So it works, okay? And that is, again, what makes for a good language-based program, different from maybe a more traditional private prep school with some academic support. Here, everything is integrated across curriculum in a consistent way with teachers who are trained in special education, not just trained in math or science or history, okay? One of the most important parts about who we are, what we do, kind of the hallmark of Landmark School is this daily one-to-one language arts tutorial. And I was asked actually by Charlene to get into a little bit of the weeds of this, get into a little depth around how our tutorial works. So the goal of the tutorial is to remediate language and literacy skills. It's a very diagnostic and prescriptive approach, and it's completely customized and individualized for each student. So as part of the daily class schedule for 50 minutes every day, for any student at Landmark who is still behind in basic literacy skills. So I'm talking about the word attack, the decoding, the encoding spelling, the reading fluency, or if someone has significant deficits still in organization for basic paragraph structure for writing process. These students are going to have a one-to-one tutorial in their day. It doesn't happen before or after school. It's part of their daily schedule. And it's not academic support like, oh, getting help for science homework or math homework. This is its own class with its own diagnostic of goals. And again, every tutorial is individualized. So if a student comes to us that needs the basic early literacy remediation, they will have that type of tutorial where they're using a lot of like the Linda Mood Bell Lips program, some Seeing Stars, some elements of Wilson to really hone in on that basic sound symbol correspondence and to build that phonemic awareness for word attack, decoding and coding, okay? And fluency, and we'll use things like Read Naturally and Great Leaps. And we really don't want to have just one tool in the toolbox. We want to pull from a variety of programs that are phonetic based and also landmark materials to really support that tutorial. If we have, for example, a student who doesn't need the basic literacy, but they need to work on maybe some higher level fluency skills and reading comprehension strategies and writing skills, that will be what their tutorial looks like. So again, really customized and individualized. There are very few students at Landmark that don't get the one-to-one, and I will talk about that in a minute, but the kids that don't get the one-to-one, it's really because they don't need it anymore. They don't need the literacy remediation. So as we go through our programs, I'll talk about that. Hopefully that was in depth enough about the tutorial, and if there are questions after, I can answer more questions. Another thing that's really unique about our high school is that our class size is not only very small with 6 to 8, but we're placing students in classes based on their ability level, not per grade. So that's a little bit different from some other schools when you call and you're asking, for example, like, is their 9th grade class full? That's not how we accept and admit students. We take students until we're full as a school, until all of our tutorial teaching periods are full. We're not putting our 18 and 19-year-old seniors with our 14-year-old freshmen, but grade up, grade down, we're really looking at things like levels of literacy, working memory, processing speed, expressive language. We're looking at those things when we do the groupings. So they might have, it might be a mix of 9th and 10th graders or 10th and 11th graders in classes together. We want to move students along in the areas where they excel. So if they are a math whiz and they can get through advanced calc 1 or 2 by senior year, we have that. If they struggle with math and need more life skill kind of, consumer math, we have that as well. So we're really, again, in each area, math, science, history, English language arts, we're placing students based on ability level. It allows for the students to feel like they're moving at a pace that's the right pace for them with the right level of challenge while not feeling overwhelmed. The reason our class size can't go beyond 8 is because we are an approved program in the state of Massachusetts. About half of our students are funded by local districts, so that's as big as we go. We do parallel the Mass curriculum framework, so every student here is taking all of those typical high school content classes that they would have at any other high school. They're going through bio and chem, US and world history, algebra, geometry. So they're getting all of those content classes, but they're doing it through a study skills approach. How do you effectively preview relevant vocabulary and take good 2-column notes and test taking strategies and all of that. And all of our teachers here either have a master's already in mild to moderate special education, about 75%. The remaining 25% are currently on waiver with DESE working towards that and being supervised. So Landmark has partnership with BU Wheelock and their master's program, and any new faculty that doesn't already have their master's is enrolled in that program working towards it and being supervised. So you really are getting a very high level of expertise with our faculty here. To, again, not only teach your kids math and science, but to understand how their great brains work and to be consistent with the methodology. And so our programs at the high school really are individualized for each student. And so I want to take a few minutes to talk about this. The core curriculum at Landmark High School includes everyone taking English language arts for 4 years of high school, obviously. Everybody having a math class, typical curriculum is like Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and then something else senior year. Or if a student is coming to us already having taken Algebra 1, then they might just jump in with Geometry and move along accordingly. Everybody takes a science, goes through at least biochem and at least a 3rd year of science. A 4th year is not required, but there are lots of options within the science department. If students want to continue through senior year, we have choices like, biochemistry of food and anatomy and physiology and advanced marine science and environmental. There's all kinds of options here. We have a very robust academic curriculum here, and the curriculum guide is available on our website. Everybody takes social sciences, so we have, the world history, the US 1, the US 2, options after that, like government and local history and 1945 to the present and psychology and all kinds of courses to choose from there. And then an elective. Every student at Landmark has an elective class every day. They pick the elective typically for the school year. Some students might want to switch halfway through, and sometimes there's the opportunity to do that. And I will get into all of the electives and extracurriculars in just a little bit, talk about all the fun stuff and how Landmark really is a full-fledged high school that offers every opportunity your child could possibly want, while getting the right academic instruction. So that's the core curriculum. Now, we customize with a number of things here based on a student's learning profile. There are, as you can see in this left-hand column, there are 4 contents listed here, and then the elective. There's room for 6 academics in the day. So we're going to customize with anybody who needs the one-to-one tutorial. That's going to be a class in their day. And that tutorial I already talked about. But again, anybody who has gaps in any literacy skills and still needs the remediation, they're going to have that one-to-one tutorial. Any student that comes to us with a diagnosis of an expressive language disorder or documented difficulties with word finding and oral formulation, they're going to have an oral expression class in the day. It's close to 100 of the 300 kids that struggle with that expressive output. If a student doesn't need the oral expression class, maybe they really need a study skills class to really support the executive function skills. So that might be something that's in a student's daily schedule. If a student is really behind with basic literacy, they may not only, they'll obviously have that one-to-one tutorial, but they might have an additional reading fluency class in their day. Or they might have a literature class where they're spending time working on literary elements and comprehension and vocabulary building and things like that. So we can customize with any of these additional classes based on the student's learning profile. We look carefully at not only the neuropsych testing, but also the screening that we administer here at Landmark. It really helps us figure out program placement and class placement. And what I want to mention here is that any student that's coming to us that does not need the one-to-one tutorial, and if they're able to put together at least, a couple paragraphs and understand basic paragraph structure, those students would be placed in what we call our prep program, which is really designed as kind of a next step to increase, I want to say, pace, volume, and complexity of independent reading and writing demands as students can handle that. As if they're reading at grade level now, they've had the great remediation at Carroll, and they really don't need the tutorial, they don't need the extra reading class, they don't need the oral expression. They're in our prep program, or actually, even if they do need the oral expression, they can still be in our prep program and have an oral expression class. But we are all about customizing here, but we really want to move students along as they gain the skills. So again, if your child has been at Carroll for a number of years and you're thinking, oh, they don't need the remediation of reading anymore, and I want to look at more traditional private prep schools, I ask you to please think about prep at Landmark, because it's still the teachers being trained and knowing how your kids learn best and the consistency across curriculum, but it's mirrored more after a traditional private prep school with, again, the increase in that pace, volume, and complexity. Okay. And again, we will decide this when you apply to Landmark, how to customize for your student. So I've already kind of mentioned study skills, but study skills is embedded in everything we do here. We're working on time management. We're working on organization of materials and information. And so, the 2-column note method, how do we, pull out main ideas and details into 2-column notes, the 5-step writing process of how to go from a brainstorm to an outline to a rough draft to an edit to a final draft, how to preview relevant vocabulary, paraphrase and summarize information effectively, and effective test taking strategies. So again, this is embedded in everything we do. Senior year, our seniors are taking a senior study skills class to really prepare them for post-secondary. They work on, they're introduced to Canvas, which is what a lot of the colleges are using. They're introduced to a syllabus, how to prepare for long-term research writing and cumulative exams. So our seniors are really getting a lot of exposure and readiness for post-secondary demands. Second Landmark is assigned every night. It's a direct practice and review of skills and content. Students are really able to complete their homework assignments on their own because it is a review and practice of the skills. We're not giving them materials that they've never seen before. The goal is for them to be independent, and it really is manageable. Typically, underclassmen have about an hour and a half a night for all of their subjects in total. And then once they get to junior, senior year, we start to increase the load a bit more, again, for that readiness for what they're going to need to handle at the post-secondary level. Homework does count as a third of their grade. There's a lot of support with, teachers being available if it's needed, especially for students who live here. There are great benefits to boarding at Landmark and that structured study hall at night, and the teachers living on campus and doing coverage in the dorms and supporting students during structured study hall. Okay, another thing that's unique is the role of the academic advisor at Landmark. So the advisor is overseeing the student's academic schedule. They're working really closely with the one-to-one tutorial teacher to set up that diagnostic of goals and go in regularly to observe and monitor progress. They write the IEPs for any funded students on their caseload, and they are the main contact person for parents and students. So the academic advisor stays with the student during their years here. It's not a new person every year. Students get to know them really well, as did the families, and anything that comes up, you reach out to the advisor. They typically have a caseload of around 18 students. They do teach a couple periods a day as well, but their main job is to oversee the students in their caseload. In terms of graduation and transition, students are starting to work as early as 9th grade on interests and figuring out what they might want to pursue. Starting junior year, they will have an assigned guidance counselor and will start weekly one-to-one meetings. This is very personalized support through the whole process of figuring out what they want to do, where they want to go, the level of support they may or may not need, requesting applications, writing the essays, getting letters of recommendation. All of our students that apply are accepted. Typically about 94% of our graduating class, which can range from 75 to 95 students, depending on the year, are going off to post-secondary and doing very, very well. And here's just a sampling of some of the schools our kids have gone to. There's a more extensive list on our website. Okay, Landmark community is amazing here. We have a real commitment to foster a sense of belonging. We have affinity groups. There's, a lot going on here in terms of seeing Landmark as a very diverse community of students and global learners. We typically have about 20 different states and about a half a dozen different countries represented. People with very diverse, backgrounds and perspectives, and we're very embracing of all of that. It's a nice, again, another bonus to students living here is that they really get to meet kids from all around the globe, which is very exciting. And so what I'd love to do is talk quickly about after school. Let's get into the fun stuff and things that are happening here when classes end at 3:15. So we do have a very comprehensive residential curriculum for any parent joining us today who's thinking of day placement only. Please know that day students are it's recommended that they stay. About 95% of them do stay and participate in afternoon activities. And oftentimes our day students are staying through dinner and waiting to go home until after rush hour traffic at night. So the day students can really be on campus as much as they want. They can participate in weekend activities. I live 7 minutes away and my son is a sophomore here. So, he is a day student, but, Friday night, he's going to stay over in the dorm because we have a half a day of Saturday school this weekend. We have those once a month. It's more, the students don't go to their regular classes, but it's more community-based activities and experiential learning, and they have tons of different options, and students sign up for what they want to do. But that's an example of like a day student staying overnight to be here in the morning, the next morning, or on the weekend, we're doing a Saturday ski and snowboard trip and the van is leaving at 6 a.m. A day student can stay on campus. So day students, we want them to be involved. It's the best way to meet more students and be more part of the community. In terms of our boarding students. Okay. So we work on kind of a system of earning privileges and this whole system of earning privileges is really centered around time management, organization, self-advocacy, and healthy decision making. So any student that has over a 45-minute to an hour plus commute every day, I highly, highly, highly recommend you be open-minded to thinking about the idea of boarding. It is so helpful for a student to not have such an incredibly long day where they're getting home, let's say after dinner, after rush hour of 6:37 at night, to be home to do homework, to go to sleep, to get up at 5:30 the next morning. It's a very long day. So if they can be here in residence during the week, they can go home every weekend if they want. They could even come in on a Monday morning and do 4 nights here and 3 nights at home. You can come up middle of the week and take them out for dinner if you want. But for them to have that structure in place during the week where they go to their afternoon activity, they have supper, they have some free time to hang out with friends, and then they have the structured study hall from 8 to 9:30 every night. And again, in every dorm, there's a house parent, there's a couple other live-in faculty, they're all the teachers that teach here, so they know the students, they can support them during structured study hall, and it helps the student to learn these skills. And honestly, the kids going off to post-secondary who have lived here in residence have such a leg up to be able to manage themselves independently and successfully at the college level. They know how to manage their time. They know how to organize their room and their material and themselves. They know how to advocate for what they need and who they are as a learner, and to make those healthy decisions and to effectively problem solve. And that's really what our residential curriculum is about. And so students will, every few weeks, as they meet day-to-day expectations and they're on time and they're getting their homework done and they're advocating effectively, they move up levels and gain privileges and have more fun in the dorm. They can order food, they can have a gaming system and a mini fridge and a TV and get a later bedtime. And these are all privileges that they can earn as they work their way through the residential program. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about all the fun stuff now, pursuing passions and everything that goes on here at Landmark outside of the academic world. So in terms of electives and afternoon activity options within visual arts, we have drawing and painting and printmaking and digital illustration and graphic design, and we have photography. There are a ton of different elective options, and also the student can be in the art building after school if they want, pursuing their passions there. Okay, we have an amazing performing arts department. We have music, we have chorus, we have dance, we have drama, we have theater tech, and we have kids putting on play productions and musical. and dance performances and open mic solo nights and all kinds of things going on within the performing arts department. Again, there are classes they can take as an elective during the day, or they can be involved with performing arts after school. We have 3 seasons of JV and varsity sports. The boys participate in the Eastern Independent League, and for the girls, it's the All-Girls Conference. In the fall, we have soccer, we have cross country, girls volleyball, and golf. In the winter, we have indoor track, wrestling, and basketball. We also do that Saturday ski and snowboard club just for fun. And in the spring, we have lacrosse, baseball, tennis, outdoor track, and sailing. And again, JV and varsity levels. And so it's a really robust athletic department, and all kinds of sports going on after school. Typically, games will happen on Fridays, sometimes on a Wednesday, but usually not on the weekends. It's oftentimes a Friday game, and practices during the rest of the week. We also have a working auto mechanics shop on campus with auto mechanics, and there's welding going on. That again can be an elective. It can be that the kids are in the auto shop after school. We have an amazing technology and STEAMworks lab. We have programming. We have animation, film production. We also have woodworking and boat building. We have an outstanding woodworking shop on campus. Kids, again, can take it as an elective during the day, or they can be in the wood shop after school. And we have very robust community service opportunities here at Landmark. Kids going out, cleaning out, raking elderly's lawns, doing Adopt a Highway, working at Beverly Bootstraps. We have amazing opportunities for weekend trips and activities based on our location, 30 minutes into Boston, nature trails, going hiking, going to Canopy Lake on the weekends, going to the movies, going to Sky Zone, King's Bowling. Obviously this location is fantastic, and there are always tons of choices on the weekends for trips and activities and community service. Okay, so that is, I think, pretty much everything in terms of the school year. And what I did want to quickly run through with just 2 more minutes is the summer program. If you're possibly considering the idea of your students starting here during the school year, especially if they're going to be boarding for the first time, you may want to consider that they transition in for our awesome 4-week summer program. Rising 8th through 12th graders are at the high school campus for the summer. Most of the kids live here for the summer as boarding students. We usually have around 50 students total. Maybe a dozen will commute as day students, but most are living here. There are 4 classes for the summer program. They're an hour each. Everybody gets the 1-to-1 tutorial. Everybody has an English language arts. Everybody has a math. And then there's either an extra reading class if students need that, or if not, they're in study skills. Then there's lunch and study hall in the afternoon. And then they can do activities after the structured study hall in the afternoon. So we have students that might do paddle boarding and kayaking. We have students that might do marine explorations with some snorkeling. We have a fitness option. We have a visual arts option and photography option. So it's really fun. It really feels like camp, even though it's 4 weeks of summer school, but it's a great transition for students if they're going to be new for the fall. And if a student, let's say, isn't coming to Landmark High School, but could really use a final boost in the study skills, the essay writing, the executive function, it's a great summer program for them to do before heading off somewhere else for high school as well. Again, all kinds of community nights, weekend trips, and tools to be successful beyond Landmark. Okay, so that's my presentation. I'm going to stop here. I'd like to answer a couple quick questions, and then by 10:45, we'll have the students on to answer questions as well. So let me get back to the Zoom here. Okay, so if anybody wants to unmute and ask any quick questions before the students join in.
Hi,
Now's the time.
Mel. First of all, thank you. Your
Yeah.
presentation was wonderful. I did notice that a parent had put in the chat a question about how difficult, if I'm correct, transitioning from a day student as a ninth or 10th grader into potentially or eventually a boarding position at the
Not a
school.
difficulty at all. And one of our students that's going to be on the panel, Teddy, did just that. She started as a day student and now she's living on campus. That happens all the time at Landmark. We'll have students that will start commuting maybe just for a year, and then they're like, oh, this commute is horrible and I want to live on campus and I'm comfortable now to do so. Sometimes that even happens after the first semester. As long as we have bed space, a student can transition into boarding at any time. And sometimes students do want to wait until a junior or even senior year before they go off to college to kind of really get ready to be away. So that's a very easy transition at any time.
Hi, this is Victoria McGowan. Can I ask a couple of just quick questions? One is, if you are a day student, you were mentioning that your son actually stays on campus. How does that actually work? You sign up for that ahead of time to say, I like to have my kid there a couple times a week? Okay.
No need to sign up. We just have students here being supervised, and you arrange to pick them up when you want to pick them up. If a student's funded and they're on like a school vehicle for transportation, then it might be that they've made arrangements with the district to get them either right before dinner or right after dinner. But if it's a family that's just going to pick a student up later, I mean, you can get here anytime.
Okay, and that's kind of related to my second question, which is I'm in Sudbury, so we're a little bit far. And I heard there was either parent arranged busing or regular busing. I don't know.
Yeah, Landmark doesn't provide transportation, but there are families that will get together from different areas around and use like a private busing company, and do that. So we definitely have families. And so usually on the start of the summer before school year begins, there's a whole carpool directory that is sent out, and you can start connecting with other people to make those arrangements. I do want to just again throw in a plug. Sudbury's far.
I know.
Think about the boarding. They're here for 4 nights, home for 3 nights if you want. They have all that amazing structure in place during the week. It's, I want to say, like mentally better for them. It's really exhausting for them to do a long drive every day. And again, what are they home for? They're home to like do homework and go to sleep and leave the next morning. You know what I mean? So if they're here, they're like involved with they get to stay for the free time and hang out with their friends and have all that great structured support during study hall. It really is a good option.
Okay, thank you.
Any other quick questions? Anything else about the curriculum, about the tutorial, the role of the academic advisor?
Actually, I have a question, Melody, just in relation to when you shared about how if a student is not receiving to the one-to-one tutorial because your feeling is that they've moved on out of the remediation space in some components, and then they're able to move into the prep program. Is that something where there's a meeting? Like, how does that work? How does that transition happen? How does that come about? And is it where typically you find a student in one-to-one tutorial sometimes for 2 years, and then I would love to hear more.
Yeah, it's really, that's why. So we have these different levels of programming at Landmark because they really are lanes. If you think about lanes, like kids moving in and out of lanes as they make progress and all of that. So sometimes a student is coming to us brand new, and through that screening that we do through the admission process, we realize that, hey, they're real word, nonsense word reading is solid. Their reading fluency is solid. They have a good sense of basic paragraph structure. This is the kid who's ready right now to enter Landmark new into the prep program. They don't need that one-to-one tutorial. If a student shows us through the screening and their independent testing that there are still some gaps, they'll start in the tutorial. And every year we're doing annual testing with the gray oral reading, the Kaufman, some different standardized measures to really monitor progress year to year. And if a student after the first year doesn't need the tutorial anymore, great. After the second year, great. Whenever they don't need it anymore, we move them along. So it's really dependent on each student and the progress they're making, but we reassess every year annually about students' readiness to kind of keep moving along.
That's really helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other?
Melody, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
How often do you have students join as a sophomore? And what programs or I guess, groups do they have available to them in order to kind of support their admission at a sophomore level?
Yeah. So again, because we're not, we have students coming in all different grades all the time. I had a student come in this year as a repeating senior. She had denied her diploma. So we have kids coming in 10th grade, 11th grade, senior year. That's not unusual at all. We always have a lot of incoming sophomores and a lot of incoming juniors. The whole first week of school here at Landmark is orientation week. So it's all onboarding activities. Kids who are living here, for the day students, they come in for half days, and it's getting to know everybody, and so there's no issue no matter what grade they come in, really. They acclimate really quickly, they make friends quickly, they feel comfortable quickly, because there's a lot of kids at all different grade levels coming in. Okay, I'd love to, I don't know if Amanda is on. I'm not sure if she was gathering the kids or if are you on, Amanda?
The kids are logging on right now.
Okay, they're logging on right now. So one more quick question until they're ready. Anybody else? No? I'm trying to think of a couple things I forgot to mention. We have a dress code at the high school, but it's pretty casual. They can do jeans as long as they're not ripped. Any kind of pants. They can do whatever they want for shoes. They have to have a collared shirt unless they have Landmark gear, which would be like a sweatshirt or a Landmark t-shirt, then they can wear that. So that's a quick thing. And now I see they're here, Teddy and Tommy.
Yeah. My name's Tommy Buick. I'm a senior at Landmark, and I live in Beverly Farms. For after school activities, I do sailing and golf, and then I do after school auto this year.
I'm Teddy. I'm a senior at Landmark. I am a boarder, and I live in North Williston, and I participate in varsity volleyball, varsity basketball, and varsity track.
Awesome. Teddy, where is your hometown?
Arlington, so like next to Boston.
Okay. And Tommy, I'm sorry, you're boarding at
I know,
Landmark?
I'm from Beverly Farms.
Oh, you're from Beverly Farms. Okay, so definitely not, because you're right here.
Hey, student.
All right, great. So questions for these students about how their transition was from Carroll to Landmark, anything you can think of.
Sure. So have you been a boarder the whole time you've been at Landmark?
No, I just started this year.
And how was the other previous 3 years before you became a boarder? Did you stay there and take advantage of being on campus after school?
Well, I did sports like right after school. So I did 3 sports for the whole entire year. And I would like get up a lot earlier, but now I'm like sleeping in more, and then I would leave later. So I'd leave like 6:30 every night. So I feel like it's better just like walking to my dorm, being able to like do homework immediately versus like taking the like hour 30 ride home every single day.
Thank you.
Hi, Teddy, and how are you both? I am, it's Mrs. Kometz. I don't know if you can see me, but I wanted to ask you both to share if you came directly from Carroll Middle School or if you went to Carroll Upper School, and if you went in as a 9th or 10th grader, and how was that transition, if you wouldn't mind.
So I came in from Carroll 9th grade, and it wasn't bad at all because for me, I had a lot of friends here. So then it just felt like I just missed a year. But I've also met people at C9 that I'm still friends with to this day. So then I would say it was worth it in the end. But I've heard from other people it's just like in a year at C9. So depends on if you know people who are going to C9 or if you need more time at Carroll.
Thanks, Tommy.
I graduated Carroll 8th grade, then transitioned right over to high school, but it was like me and like 11 of us all transferred over at the same time. So I felt like I had like my own little group of like friends. So it felt like really easy transitioning in.
Can I ask you guys a question just to talk a little bit about like the academics when you were at Carroll, and I know you were supported really well there, and how you felt the continued kind of like support over to Landmark was academically, and if you felt like while you know during your time here, since you're both seniors, do you feel like you've been like pushed along well, like challenged well, like you know that kind of thing, that things haven't been made too easy for you while you've been here, or if you can talk about that, that'd be great.
We've definitely been supported. They fall around the same curriculum size for classes, so it's not a big shock. Some classes can be bigger, but that's normally as you get to like your junior and senior year. But then they
Or if you're in
become,
prep.
or if you're in prep, but they still only go to like 8 people. Or I think I have one class of 9, but that was last year, and that was co-taught. So it's very similar.
The way it works here is like if you have a class of like 8+, you get a co-teacher. So like I take intro to law and biochem and food here as like 2 of my like big classes. And there's like 9 of us in that class, and you have 2 teachers because it goes over 8. So then it's like if you have like a question while another teacher's talking, you just pull one on the side, and it makes it like easier to like talk through what's going on if you don't understand something.
Other questions?
I'll ask another one. Can you both share what, in terms of the support in that extra tutorial, since we were chatting about it, I'm guessing it's changed a little bit for each of you over the years, and not that you have to remember each one each year, but maybe give us an example of maybe what you were working on in tutorial one year, what your focus was versus maybe another year.
Last year, my tutorial was focused on getting like a draft of my college essay, what I was going to write about, and then how to like elaborate it my own way. But then this year, like I completely like changed my college essay term. It's like completely. Last year was about like my life story, and this year's about like how my hair and like how it can be different, how it changes, and how it like affects my like personality, and like how it like affects my presence. And I'm focusing more on like reading and writing more. And last year was more so like I was focusing on like figuring out like what I want to do in college, what I want to do with graphic designing, if I want to continue that, if I want to change my major. So it was like a big like 360 change.
It also depends if you sometimes go into the LIPS program, which they have, but you need more support. It can be, for my first year I was here, I was in LIPS, so it's more the Carroll traditional tutorial, one-on-one, they like reading, writing, and spelling. But then as you continue to tutor, it becomes more of a second, like a more common advisor, I would say. That they like check with your work sometimes if you ask them to. You can write emails to teachers in their class, and they can like look it over. So it becomes like extra time you need if for assignments, or if you need to like do like a guidance meeting during the class, they let you do that. They sometimes let you meet with teachers during there if they have a free period. So it's very flexible depending on what you do.
Thank you.
Would you guys mind mentioning a couple of the like events and things that we have going on throughout the year that are like, you know, fun things? Like I'm thinking, obviously we have like a senior prom, but like other things that are like, you know, help Landmark students come together as a community throughout the year.
We have community night, so we have a Saturday school every single month, and then the day before on like the Friday night, we usually have a community night where it's like Landmark Idol, like you go to the gym, play dodgeball, and they like have different activities for us. And it's like a really good time for like boarders and day students to get to hang out after hours. But then we also had the pep rally during milk break, where it's like all the fall sports teams run out, and then we get introduced, and then we have activities or grades compete for like dress down days. And like it's like a whole school and just the gym and just all like having fun together.
Yeah. There's also sometime with community events there, I was saying dress down days, but then sports, you get to meet more people for that community. And then milk break and lunch is also other times. So there's definitely lots of times you get to meet new people. We then also have, which is very nice for the students and not for the teachers, we have these conference days every quarter. So we get 2 days off as a student, not as teachers, but it's fun for us.
What are some of the weekend activities that can happen and that day students can join too if they want?
So I think this weekend after Saturday school, I could be wrong about this, we have a Canopy Lake trip going out. And that's like one of like the like more I think rare trips that we have. And you're gonna go to Canopy Lake and it's like for Scream Fest and you go and you stay there till like you expect to get back at 9, we stay there till like 7:30. And then we have like food trips, Target runs, open gym in the morning and afternoon. You can have like also guests come to campus. Like people from school can sleep over, but people from outside schools have to like sign student life, so you can hang out with your friends at the gym from outside of school if you want.
Also take boarders off campus on the weekends if they sign a day pass, and you can also come to campus sometimes if on the weekends and see boarders. And there are sports events if you do varsity sports on the weekend.
Could you both share with families how I know it might be just the beginning, but the college application process, how you're feeling about all that? If that is a route you're headed in.
Yeah, so for me, I've done early access to one acceptance day for one school, which was Colby Sawyer, and then recently I went to their volleyball camp on Sunday and I got recruited for D3 volleyball. And for other teams that have looked at me, you just like go in and out of meetings with them, and then you like will like text or email back and forth to the coaches. And when that happens, you just have to be like, if like a scout comes and looks at you, you have to like be on your like best game. And all of us have guidance counselors as seniors, and you meet with them like once or twice a month, depending on like your schedule around classes and sports. And you go in there and like you talk to them and like explain what colleges you want to look at, like what you want to do in college, what majors you're going into. Like for the first like month, you set up Common App, and if you're an athlete who wants to go D1, D2, D3, you set up the NCAA app, and it's like helping like colleges see like your test scores, your GPA scores, like your overall like point scores, depending on what sport you do.
Yeah, it also reminds me a lot of the Carroll system because you get a college admissions person to help you, guidance counselor to help you, and I think there are 4 of them. 4.
4 is right.
4,
Yeah,
yeah, there are
4.
4 of them that get the grades, or everybody gets split up into these 4, and you can pretty much they meet with you pretty regularly, as they don't meet with you that much in your they meet you in your sophomore year for the first time, and then as it continues on, you meet more and more with them. So in senior year, you're practically meeting with them every month or twice a month.
You both sound very well prepared for the next adventure.
Well, I know I'm looking at the time. I know it's 10:58, so we're pretty much done, but I thank you guys so much for popping over and to answer some questions for the Carroll parents who have joined us today. I really, really appreciate your time. And you guys are doing awesome. We're very proud of you. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very informative. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if anybody, this was recorded, so yeah, Charlene, please feel free to, I'll share it with you, and then you can get it out to any parents that couldn't join. And if anybody has any questions after today, again, just email us at the admission office and we will get back to you.
Thank you, Melody. We are so appreciative of this morning, and I know everyone, including ourselves, always walk away more informed and more understanding of the wonderful opportunities at Landmark. And I know Melody and Lisa Pulrine would be happy to, connect with any of you as you move through the process. So thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And like I said, the application's available now, so people can start working on it.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.